Welcome to Season 2, the official podcast of the Fish Wrapper publication. Our goal is to bring you story content to inspire, encourage, and uplift the soul. It's our hope you find these stories refreshing, thought-provoking, and motivating as you face the challenges of everyday life. So turn us up and tune your ears, and let's get started by jumping right into the story.
Get Out of the Way by Kathryn as told to George Reamer. Condensed and edited. Read by Ruth Risser. One morning in July 1955, something happened while I was awake that made me pray it might be a nightmare. My husband, John, and I bred show horses. We had 4 at a show in Connecticut and were on our way home to Ipswich, Massachusetts. We left the event early in the morning, hoping to beat the traffic. John was ahead of me, driving the 5-ton horse van, which had sleeping space and a telephone. This allowed John to call Red or Vern back in the trailer. Red, who was 23 at the time, was John's assistant, and young Vern was our groom. While on trips, their job was to see that the horses didn't get skittish and kick out the van's walls. I wasn't riding in the van for a change, but was following them in a blazing red 55 convertible Oldsmobile Starfire. It was a bright, sunny morning, and I had the top down. Ahead of us, John was creeping up the steep, long back of one of those high ridges that hump up in the center of Connecticut. When we got to the top, I let the van gather downhill speed while I looked at my watch. It was 9:30 a.m. Traffic would start thickening now as the morning progressed. When I tried to catch up to John, it seemed like he was going recklessly fast. I noticed some wet, slick spots on the road and an oily, thick smoke streaming out from under the van. I shot ahead to find out what was wrong. When I pulled alongside the cab, I saw John was steering with his right hand and tugging at the emergency brake with his left. His eyes were frozen on the road ahead.
"Get out of the way!" he shouted desperately. "Get back! My brakes are gone!"
As I dropped back, too frightened and confused to do anything else, Red's head poked out the side door of the van. He looked puzzled and scared. I suddenly realized the wet spots on the road were hydraulic fluid. Since the cab's telephone works on a vacuum principle, the same as the brakes, poor Red couldn't even find out from John why they were rolling down the mountain utterly helpless. I was sure John was looking for a field or side road he could turn into. He could have jumped and saved himself, but then the van might crash into the trees or tumble down a ravine. The 4 heavy horses would slide forward from their stalls at the rear of the van and come slamming against Red and Vern, thrashing and kicking. I pushed my foot hard on the gas pedal and shot the convertible ahead of the van. As I passed the cab, I heard John shouting over and over, "Get out of the way!" He didn't mean me. He meant anyone who might be ahead, hidden by twists of the road, rolling lazily out of some private driveway or side lane. He was yelling because his horn worked on the same system with the brakes, and so it was out of commission too. The hill at this particular point was not terribly steep. I jammed down the horn and kept it down. Along the way, there were signs. No passing. Side road. Winding road. I passed a boy on a bike, and in the rearview mirror, I saw John swing the van far left. My first big shock came as I rounded a curve. About a half-mile ahead was a stoplight with 2 cars facing uphill, waiting for the light to change. The first car had its turn signal blinking. It was going to make a left turn directly in John's path. I quickly throttled the convertible down to the intersection and tore up a grassy embankment a few yards from the car, waving and begging the driver not to move. He looked at me in amazement, and to my utter horror, he began to make a distracted, looping left turn. His eyes were on me instead of the onrushing van. He was barely past the center of the road when John hit the intersection. He must have been going 60 miles per hour, but he swung cleanly around the tail of the car turning left, then skidded back into his own lane. I didn't wait to see what the other car did. I backed down the embankment and raced after John. A quarter mile farther, I saw a turn in the road. I clung to the van's tail till John started his turn. By cutting across grass and gravel, I was able to make a tighter turn inside of John's and once again nose to the front. I caught the briefest glimpse of red, but didn't see Vern. You'd think in this crisis my mind would concentrate on getting us safely to the bottom of the hill, but I kept thinking trivial things, like what the horses were doing, or what shows were ahead of us, or how friends had said our 15-year marriage had gotten to be one of horses and habit. I even felt like laughing when I saw a warning sign that said, "Slow down to 30 miles per hour." But suddenly, my mouth went dry. Speed limits meant towns. A second later, I saw another sign which read, "Winstead, population 10,000.
We hope you've been enjoying the story. We will continue in just a moment. We pause to discuss the sponsor for this episode. If your business isn't using key marketing tools, you could be missing out on valuable opportunities to grow. That's where Little Mountain Printing comes in. They offer powerful marketing solutions like postcard mailers and websites to attract new customers, brochures to showcase your products or services, and promotional products to show appreciation to clients. With the right marketing in place, your business has the best chance to thrive. Get started today by calling Little Mountain Printing at 717-933-8091 or visit them online at littlemountainprinting.com. Now let's return and finish the story.
I remembered Winstead from other trips. It had a busy, narrow main street running along the Mad River and was dotted with factories, filling stations, and small shops. It was early yet, so most of them would be closed. I also remembered there was a big stone Roman Catholic church right along the main street. It was at this moment I wished I were having a nightmare. I kept looking in the mirror at John, almost hoping to see him crash the van into one of those empty factories we were passing, instead of trying to race through a crowded street. At the entrance to Winstead sat a red light marking a juncture between two highways. I don't know what my speedometer read, but it must have been over 80. We ran the light without a mishap. The street, now quite narrow, was made still narrower by cars parked along the curb. If steering was hard for me, it must have been almost impossible for John, but he was still coming. I made up my mind that if I saw anyone in the road, pedestrian or car, and a crash looked unavoidable, I would swing my car into the nearest shop window. I wondered what John would do. A pedestrian saw us coming and kept a car from driving into our path. A woman backing out from the curb killed her motor with her sudden stop. Midway through town, we screeched around a corner, and there was the church. On the sidewalk, a policeman stood ready to direct traffic. I breathed a sigh of relief. The church doors were closed, and the street was mostly deserted. Just past the church, the street split in two around a large grassy circle protected by a ring of iron pipe and chain. My tires complained loudly when I went around it. I felt sure John would choose to plow through the chains, hoping they would stop him. But the instant his tires began to squeal, I knew he was taking the turn too. On the east side of Winstead, the Mad River cuts sharply under the highway. The bridge over it was wide enough for 2 cars, though not wide enough for a truck and a car. 4 or 5 cars were on the other side of the bridge and moving toward us. If John could get past the bridge, he'd be all right because the grade starts climbing again. I was so intent on getting to the bridge and stopping those cars that I didn't see, until too late, that I was running another red light and crossing a major highway. What made me realize this was a big truck roaring down from the north with the driver blowing his horn and shaking his fists at me. He didn't see John until the very last moment. Then, all he could do was lower his head and charge on. John leaned the van as far as he could to the truck's rear, and they missed each other by the breadth of a paint job. Up ahead, the first car was already on the bridge, and the second was about to enter it. Then I heard a curious screeching sound and looked in the mirror. John was driving up against the curb. A cloud of dust and bluish smoke from his wheels made it hard to see what was happening, but he was slowing down. John stopped the van a bare 20 feet from the buttress of the bridge. He'd used the sidewalls of his tires against the curbing as a brake. I got to the cab a few steps behind Red. John's face was the color of ashes and he couldn't talk. When Red finally got John's fingers pried loose from the steering wheel, blood was dripping from them. John's other hand was frozen so tightly to the brake handle that it took Red more than 10 minutes to get his bleeding fingers unlocked. I realized for the first time then that John had driven the entire way one-handed. It was good to be standing on firm ground. Blood coursed pleasantly through the soles of my feet as I made my way through a large group of people that had gathered. I heard someone ask, "Was there a wedding? I heard car horns." In a way, I guess there had been a wedding. I paused for a moment to thank God for letting me learn something a lot of women never know for sure until too late: how much I loved my husband. It wasn't long until it seemed as if everybody in town had collected around us wanting to hear what had happened. I heard Red laughing and saw him using Vern's hair. Vern looked confused, while everybody else was grinning. When Red saw me, he yelled out,
Vern just woke up. He wants to know if we were arrested for speeding.
The end.
We hope you enjoyed this story and will join us again soon when we unravel another adventure from the pages of The Fish Wrapper. We want to remind you that The Fish Wrapper is available by subscription. Each issue of The Fish Wrapper is jam-packed with story content, amazing recipes, games, jokes, and much, much more. Our readers never want to miss an issue, and you can order yours today by visiting thefishwrapperonline.com or by calling 717-400-FISH. That number again is 717-400-FISH. We encourage you to like and subscribe to this podcast, ensuring that you never miss a new episode. See you again soon, and may our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ guide you.